Hi, coming back to the terminologies and things used in the World Ayurveda Congress presentation. The second term that I pick up is stochastic. Now, stochastic means to draw certainty in uncertainty or randomness. This is based on the idea of probability and is purely a mathematical subject. When you talk about probability, first point to understand is why do we need something like probability, or what is the necessity for a probabilistic theory to come into place when considering Prakriti. So, if I was to say that within a framework of Prakriti with defined dependencies, because we know that Prakriti variates with Desh, Kal, Vay, etc. And uh, each of them has different probabilities, at the same time, a different character of randomness. That leads to a position where the necessity for a probabilistic model arises if we want to quantify Prakriti or define Prakriti as a model so that it can be communicated across to the world. To address this nature of Prakriti, there are changes that have to be observed. Some of these changes are continuous and some of these are discontinuous. However, the intermittent or continuous, either of the changes are neither arithmetic nor geometric, and therefore they are not regular but they are irregular. That also leads to a point where we need to consider something stochastic. It is therefore based on an assumption throughout. The only thing that appears to be definite among all the factors that influence Prakriti is age. As it remains constant, also the frequency of change is constant in case of age, and hence it is something whereupon a scale can be drawn. This scale that can be drawn upon is the factor which, if we were to plot this on a graphical model of mathematics, would come flat on an x-axis. So time will come across an x-axis and the randomness of other factors will be across. In stochastic models, we have three variable probabilities or possibilities that we consider, and those are: one, as the definity of a time or a linear context. Then there is a problem, and that is also stochastic because we do not know how long it is or how fast it is or what is the stretch of it. There is only a discrete time frame associated with it. Then there is a probability of something going upwards or not or downwards, but they would be something like mirror images or proportional images. So you have two probabilities on the x-axis, something going in the positive direction or something going in the negative direction. And this positive or negative direction can be at the same variable, say minus 5 up and minus 5 down and plus 5 up, or can be a slight difference, say plus 5 up and minus 2.5 down. But the probability is still mathematical. And then there is a third probability that the change will be anywhere on the above the x-axis, something like say a plus 5, then from plus 5 it would change to say by plus 2 and move up, then it will come down say 2 by minus 3 and come down to 4, and then again go up and then come down at varying rates and variables. This is precisely the randomness that makes it essential and important to consider why a stochastic model is important to understanding of Prakriti. Now, here when we talk about the factors, there's a word in mathematics that is often used with reference to paths. Paths is nothing but, in mathematical reference, it is the sequence of in which the events are going to happen. Going back to the idea that a collection of random variables which is to be indexed by time makes it stochastic. So Prakriti is indexed by the age, and that becomes the reason why it is stochastic in nature. The processes, we already said, can be continuous or discontinuous, and this works across a probability distribution possibility. When we look at something like a simple walk idea of stochastic models, and we say that 121 is the assumed or is the age that a person can live, 121 years, which is a large time frame. The model also says that there is a probability of this being either plus 121 years of age or minus 121 years of age. Now, minus 121 of years of age is a difficult idea. However, we do know from the Ayurvedic text that gestation period or gestation, that is life before the mortal birth, that of 9 months or 40 weeks, the 40 weeks period lives the same life as 121 years. So that lends the picture that you have a curve on the x-axis where 121 years forms one curve based upon 1 upon square root of the factor, and 9 months forms another curve on the negative side of the x-axis as 1 upon square root of the factor. What stochastic models now say is the variation, the random variation, will have every probability of hitting the top of the curve or bottom of the curve at that instant of time as many times, which can be calculated using probability theorems. But there is maximum probability that the variations will lie within this curve. There might be a few chances when this variation can go past the curve above the 121 years curve or the 9 months curve below the x-axis, but those probabilities are very, very less. Now, this understanding brings us to the randomness of change of ratio of Vat, Pitta and Kapha and Sattva, Raj and Tam with age. And I'm just talking about age, one factor right now. This because the total sum of Vat, Pitta and Kapha and Sattva, Raj and Tam will individually be 1. But at any point of randomness, will Pitta remain the same or change? Will Vat remain the same or change? And proportionately, will Kapha remain the same or change? Or similarly for Sattva, Raj and Tam? That is variable. Also, that is variable based upon different other factors that come along together. Say, desh or geography, kal or seasons. So now the influence upon the curve of time, which is a flat x-axis, gives the idea that when a person changes his place from here to here, the dependent factors or other factors, sun, moon, and therefore seasons, vegetation, they will also change. But how is it going to impact will be an uncertainty. For other reasons as well, like social circle, family, environment, etc., etc. Given these situations, if Vat, Pitta and Kapha were supposed to be a single coordinate on this curve, the different points where Vat, Pitta and Kapha will lie together on this plot will be random. There also is a probability that while with age the things are moving forward, because of some Prakriti influence, there might be a backwards movement at some point for some time as well. So, the forward and backwards time lag becomes important. And that attributes a greater randomness to the time scale, which is x-axis. This may be questioned when I am talking about this, because I have put 121 years and the time scale across the x-axis, whereas 121 years was the age and the straight x line. But the reason 121 years appears above or below the x-axis, or 9 months appears below the x-axis, is not because that is the age as a number alone, but those are frames in a three-dimensional structure within which the transition period is measured as a numerical number x of age and is represented there. But 121 years by itself is a universe, is a sphere in which this movement of time is taking place. So, time by itself, with its numerical property, is linear, but by the nature of its influence, is a three-dimensional structure. And that lends time itself the stochastic character within, while other factors like desh, that is geographical location, kal or seasons or social atmosphere or family atmosphere, these factors are three-dimensional or multi-dimensional by their very nature of components. Time being a single component assumes or acquires, to say, a stochastic character in a three-dimensional space because of its universal character and a linear numerical presentation. This is why quantum mathematics becomes important and integral when we are discussing and studying Prakriti and trying to address Prakriti as a quantifiable subject. This also lends firmness to the idea that when we are considering these deviations, and as I will take them up during the course of this series, the stochastic nature and things like thermodynamics or any other principles of physics, they will hold their ground and character coming together to lend a picture of how life processes continue, how life processes could have evolved, and how life processes run or get variated because of conditions. Just as an example, before I sum this presentation up, say for example you fall sick and you have high temperature. Even that is going to change your basal metabolic rates. Now, when basal metabolic rates change, the randomness automatically changes. The frequency was already indifferent and it becomes much more discrete. That would mean that the probabilities will change on the curve, and hence Prakritic influence is impacted. Prakritic influence comes down to happen, and that could be advancement of age or could be regression at some other point. Also, to state that when these dynamics happen, it is not that all the systems of the body are going to age in the same direction or at the same rate. The different systems, that is exemplified by the idea of Srotas, will change by their own individual independent rates. This lends the human physiological or animal physiological or plant physiological or living physiological processes their independence, and while they are independent processes, they still are dependent on each other to run a complete bigger process like life. They become stochastic. Thank you.